Flywheel Friday. You see my screen?
I do.
Cool.
Do you see it?
So any questions, anything that comes up, just drop it in the Q&A and or the chat. So you're here to talk a lot about the profit flywheel. And again, I say this every time. It's one of my favorite parts of Dan's presentation I saw at CarrotCon is start off by saying that we're making an assumption in all of our content, in all of our conversations. We do make an assumption, and that is that you are in business to fund something that matters to you. If you are indeed in business just so that you can own a business, so that you can own your own job, a lot of this stuff might not resonate. However, if there are things that matter to you, get more free time, spend more time with your kids, retire your parents, whatever it is, retire yourself. Every move we make needs to be getting closer to the things that actually matter. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. We're going to hit that pretty hard today, but essentially there's often a focus that, hey, if I made more money, I wouldn't have to work so much so I could spend more time with my family, for example. And then we come real bullish about that, make more money. And as a result, we spend less time with our family. And then maybe we make more money, maybe we don't, but then we try to make more and we spend consequently less time with our family. And we kind of lose sight of the things that matter. So we want to keep that top of mind so that every move we're making is getting us closer to the things that matter. You can join us live every Friday, cfeclass.com/next. So if you're catching this replay, we're going to continue to jam on the profit flywheel and the different components every Friday. You can ask questions right here in the Zoom. And the profit flywheel is made up of 4 primary components: cash flow engineering, customers for life. Okay, so cash flow engineering is engineering your cash flows, becoming as profitable as possible, and building the frameworks to make good financial decisions, really. Customers for life, retention, referrals, raving fans. That's my framework for marketing, selling, and scaling, specifically revenue. So really revenue generation for a particular offer. Revenue multiplication is the process that Dan has put together to add new streams of income. And really, it's turned into identifying what we should do. Should we add new streams of income? And if so, how? How do we eliminate risk? How do we get closer to our goals? Has a whole workbook. It's phenomenal. And then the last component is what I call ACE cards. Everything we're doing, we want to be compiling ACE cards. So a rainy day, shelter in place, whatever may happen, we have the ability to play big while not taking much of a risk. So we're always compiling ACE cards, which are also in my book, they're called Get Cash Now campaigns. Like, stuff hits the fan, you gotta pull something out of your hat. We've been compiling ACE cards, hopefully over the last year, and they will be at our disposal. So those are the main components of the profit flywheel. Okay. And typically, the bolded ones are the ones we're talking about today, but today we're going to cover a component of all of them, which essentially answers the question, should I do a thing and what thing should I do next? That's where most people are that I'm dealing with right now is, I feel like I need to do something. Should I do something? What should I do? Should I go high ticket? Should I go low ticket? Should I sell my business? Should I buy a business? Should I take all my money and put it in Robinhood and buy Tesla? Like, what should I do? Hey, and so today, what I'm going to do is share the 3 primary underpinnings of the profit flywheel. So they're not part of the flywheel, but they are just these concepts that are always present. Everything needs to be weighed against these things. And the first being profit priority methodology. Okay, we'll talk about that. The second being Dan's case framework. I was introduced to that in cash flow engineering, and it's just such a great way to operate and get information right before we execute. The third is the velocity method, which is essentially figuring out how to actually get things done in what time frame and make sure that they actually get done to completion. Okay, so these things need to be ongoing. We have to keep our profits or our priorities top of mind using a case framework, which is compile, assess or analyze, strategize, execute. And the velocity method is how we make decisions day to day. Who does what should we expect? How fast will it get done? How does it get done to completion? Okay. And really want to focus today because it keeps coming up in all the conversations we have. Want to focus on the profit priority methodology. And you've probably heard Dan talk about this. You've probably heard me talk about this. But I want to keep pushing it top of mind because I keep getting questions. We keep having conversations where people are clear, quote unquote, clear on their priorities. Hey, it's really important to me that I never do X, Y, Z, and that I get closer to A, B, C. And they get all these ideas about things they could do next, all of which will get them away from the things they say are priorities and push them into things they say they never want to do. So jam on profit priorities today, one of the underpinnings of the profit flywheel. And the ultimate question is, what are we optimizing for? Anytime you ask Dan a question, anytime you ask me a question, you get some form of this as a response. Should I hire a nanny? And these are real questions that come in all the time. Should I hire a nanny or an admin? Right, what should my next hire be? You can find books that might show you how to do some math and tell you how to scale your business. You'll be more profitable if you do this. But the question is, what are we optimizing for? Right? If you want to spend more time with your kids, for example, maybe hiring a nanny is not the best way to do that. Maybe hiring an admin is, right? So there's this layer of what actually matters to us. What are we trying to get closer to? Another good example Dan shared yesterday was we might want time back. So one of Dan's priorities, which he shared a few times on these calls, is to get 10 hours of time back. And so naturally we say, okay, we got to make this much money so we can hire somebody. And we just tend to immediately go to whatever default we've been taught or revenue generation or whatever. And Dan just found an office closer to his house, which saves what, 8 hours?
Yeah, somewhere between 8 and 10 hours a week in drive time.
So the point being, I want to keep it top of mind to zoom out and continue to ask, how do we get closer to the things that matter? Because marketing more, selling more, pushing harder, yada, 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 in order to get 10 hours of your time back may not be the most efficient way. In fact, it may just create more complications to get you further away from getting your time back. So what I want to do is pass it over to Dan real quick and let him give his spiel on the profit priority methodology, because every time I hear him talk about it, I take away something new. And I think it's important that we continue to push back to, if you're in the member area, continue to push back to right here. This is the member area. Profit priority. There's a little training right here. I recommend you watch that frequently. And then the workbook that you actually, and Dan, I'll actually talk about this too. There's actually kind of a gut check component in the way that he organizes this. Like to really gut check yourself if you're being honest with yourself. If you are in the member area, I implore you, I cannot recommend strongly enough that you continue to circle back and work through this profit priority methodology. Use the workbook, and you don't have to show anybody, but work on really getting honest with yourself.
Yeah, so first thing as it relates to the workbook, I just told developers to push to go live on the app, Certainty app. And version 1 of the Certainty app is a more robust version of the profit priority methodology. Version 2 is including all the readiness stuff that we gave a piece of yesterday in revenue multiplication. So readiness basically is to tell you how much additional risk can your business take on, and what actions do you need to take. So we walk through how dynamically almost real time. The algorithms will tell you what you need to focus on. So maybe you need to focus on cash flow engineering. Maybe you need to focus on customers for life. Maybe it's playing your ace cards, or maybe it is time that you can ascend the revenue pyramid and add more opportunities. So readiness actually will tell you where the warnings are in your business relatively real time, because it's pulling from data related to cash and revenues and extrapolating out volatility, etc. It will also tell you the status of your reserve accounts and whether or not they're properly funded. And so I just mentioned all that because we're pushing live on V1 soon, and if you haven't bought the lifetime access, I think you're going to probably regret it, because I think we priced it at $97 lifetime access to the app, plus you get the book Seeking Certainty, which I've been feverishly trying to wrap up. So anyhow, I think that's probably I'm biased, but no brainer in terms of the value. Anyhow, the intention of the whole profit priority methodology just goes back to, what are we really solving for? And we have some specific things that each of us are solving for that are preference based. For me, as Nick mentioned, one of my preferences is just having 10 more hours of time per week, white space time. And there's a cost to that. And then there are other priorities like paying off a home or buying a second home, or retiring my parents. That's a personal priority of mine, which my dad retired 4 months ago. So those are the priorities that I have, but they're inherently personal. They're preference based. There's not a right or wrong. It really doesn't matter what your priorities are to me, because they're yours, and there needs to be no judgment behind them. What is the point, though, about getting clear on priorities? Nick, what is the point of getting clear on your priorities?
Well, for me, and the way that I'm going to get it wrong again, I always get it wrong. Well, for me, it's to modify your behavior accordingly, so that the action you're taking is actually getting you closer to the things that matter.
Yeah, that's right. So partial credit on that. So the output of getting clear on your priorities is that you can align your actions to support getting you closer to the things that matter. But if we can sort of back up a little bit before that and go, well, why does that even matter? Well, the problem is that uncertainty is truly this nebulous thing. Insofar as what is uncertain for one person is certain to another. Like, in other words, what stresses you out may not stress me out at all. Like, the answer may be clear to me, but not clear to you. And we could be talking about the same exact topic. And so that's what I mean by uncertainty is nebulous, because similar to preferences, it's relative to the person. So we all have different risk tolerances. And the universal truth that I've observed about basically every business owner out there is that really what we're chasing is certainty. That's what we're chasing, or we're seeking. We're seeking certainty. And that's certainty about our future. Are we actually going to achieve the things that are important to us? And then after we achieve them, are we going to be able to maintain them? And that's the fear of a lot of the really wealthy folks, is that is their wealth built on a house of cards? Have they taken on too many expenses that eventually could be catastrophic? And so we're all seeking certainty. And until we get clear on what our priorities are, the certainty just remains. And so we keep trying to solve certainty or get closer to certainty by having more. Like, that's our solution. I just need more revenue. I just need more stuff. And somehow that more is a proxy for or the solution for solving certainty. And maybe it is, but the problem is that until you get clear on your priorities, certainty remains uncertain. I know that sounds philosophical, but the purpose of getting clear on your priorities is so you have more certainty. What are we actually trying to solve for? So that's really the purpose behind it all. And so in my methodology, step one is mapping out what are your priorities? What are the things that you care about, that you're trying to fund? So you list them out, and then you assign a dollar value to them. So having 10 more hours per week, in my case, it's going to cost like $2,500 a month to get an office space 8 minutes from my house rather than an office space in downtown Seattle, which used to be 30 minutes from my house, but there's a bridge that goes from the West Seattle where I live to connect to the main thoroughfares. That bridge was supposed to last for 70 years, but has some major cracks in it. So they closed the bridge like 40 days ago. And it's a massive bridge. And apparently it's going to be closed for the next 2 to 4 years. So now it takes me 45 minutes to an hour to get to the office, and typically an hour and a half to get home, because I got to go this really roundabout way. And that's with hardly any people on the road. So imagining what it'll be like in the future. So anyhow, there's a cost associated with that, with funding that priority. So we have to first get the whole list, and then we need to assign a dollar value to it. What is the cost? And then what is the timeline to fund that cost? So in my case, when it came to having 10 more hours per week, that timeline was like in the next 30 to 45 days. There's this clock ticking, knowing that the commute's going to get even worse going forward. So we need to know the timeline as well. And then they need to be in sequential order. So from what's the first thing that we want, what's the second thing, what's the third thing, so on and so forth. And that's because we can't fund everything at once. It's the whole maximize versus optimize problem. So if we're a big publicly traded company, we have all the resources where we can maximize, we can have the most today, most amount of cash, most amount of time, theoretically, most amount of resources. But as a individual or a small business, we have to optimize what's the most efficient path forward. We don't have the resources, the money and time at our disposal to fund everything. And so we need to figure out the lead domino, the number one thing that we're funding, and optimize towards that. Put all of our resources to locking that priority in, and then we move to the next thing. And then we fund that, and then we move to the next thing, and so on and so forth. And this exercise, what it does, if you actually follow through on it and you list everything out from 1 to 5, and you assign your assets, and you calculate out how far away you are from funding those priorities, and whether or not your cash that you're generating currently will actually get you there. What it does is then it says, okay, I can actually fund priority number 1. I just need to move some assets around. So if that's truly priority number 1, then you should pull the trigger on it. It's called voting with your money. And so when you pull the trigger on it, you've locked in that priority. It's now been achieved. And so you're moving to the next thing. And what often happens is that in voting for your money, or voting with your money, you uncover what is actually your true number 1 priority. So I'll go through this exercise with folks, and we'll line everything out, and we'll have priority number 1, priority number 2, so on and so forth. And we'll go, okay, you have this stock from employee stock. So the stock that you purchased as part of an employee stock purchase program years ago that's just sitting there. We should sell that stock to fund priority number 1, retiring your parents or whatever it may be. And they go, you know what? I don't want to do that. Okay, why? And then what you find out is that that's not actually their number 1 priority. The thing that they've been espousing as their number 1 priority for the last 5 years is not actually their number 1 priority. And so this whole optimize versus maximize structure is actually a forcing function for you to figure out what are your actual priorities, because we tend to think we know what we want, but it's biased by social media and books that we've read and all these things that we think we should be doing or must be doing, that aren't actually our real priorities or our top priorities. And we've been, I don't know, to some degree fooling ourselves. And so the intentionality behind this process is to help you realize what is actually your number one priority. Number two, like what is the real sequence, and start systematically pulling the trigger to fund those things. Otherwise, what is the point? If you have the resources to fund your priorities, why are you not doing it? And part of the reason is because you're not clear on them. And then the other side of it, which we showed in our revenue multiplier class yesterday, is that based off the amount of cash that you're generating currently from your business or your investments, you may actually be able to hit your timeline. Say your timeline is 5 years from now or 10 years from now. You may actually be able to fully fund that priority within the timeline that you've set. So why is it that you still feel the need to generate more businesses, invest in more assets? And so that could be just personal reasons, anxiety, things like that. Or it could be that you're not being honest about your real timeline. So what you think is a 1 year goal or 5 year goal is actually shorter than that. And so again, it's a forcing function for you to uncover what is actually the truth. So that's the spiel on the.
Yep. So here's what I have for anybody that's here, or if you catch this replay. Sometimes we send these replays out. It's usually just a discernment on, later in the day. Challenge. Every Flywheel Friday, I'm gonna try and give you something to do that changes the way you look at things a little bit, because it's ultimately what we're here to do. Write down your priorities, rank order them. Dan just walked through the process. So you can see here in the workbook, which eventually will be an app, which I'm super excited for. Write them down, rank order them, and assign them a dollar value. And if you have any questions, you could drop in the Wealth Acceleration group and kind of ask Dan, like, how do I assign a value to this? I think people run into that sometimes. But assign it a dollar value and then gut check yourself. This is my favorite part of the whole exercise, is you have this ranked number one. And then when it comes time to vote with your money, you don't want to. And so there's some sort of dissonance there, which is you got to work through, and Dan has methods for that. But the reality is, it doesn't really matter how big you grow your business or how much revenue you do or how many employees you have or how much stuff you have if there's still that dissonance sitting right there at the top. Because what you say you want and what you're optimizing for and what you actually want are different things. And we want to stop running that race as soon as possible. So I challenge you, if you're watching, either live or replay, to actually write this down, gut check yourself, rank order, gut check, and if willing, share it in the Wealth Acceleration group. You could share your priorities. If you're not comfortable sharing your priorities, then just share any kind of breakthrough or any kind of paradigm shift that you had and said, I thought I had a priority, but it really turns out not to be, and kind of utilize the collective momentum of the group. So if do me a favor, if you're here live, just drop in the chat and let me know, hey, yeah, I'm going to do this. You don't have to share it, but let me know you're going to write it down. You're going to assign it the dollar value. And if you get stuck, you're going to ask for help. Somebody. Yes, cool. So that's the challenge. Now, the other thing I've been kicking around, since you guys are here, I'll be transparent with you guys. Dan and I are always going back and forth, scamming and scheming. And the cool thing is when we do this stuff, we share with our private members why we're doing it, how it works, and all that stuff. As I roll out the flywheel, the profit flywheel, and the app comes out, and what the app is going to do is show you how to use the flywheel or like a GPS almost. Over the next couple of weeks, I want to launch out as much stuff you can do right now, because the more people that we can get to know us, like us, trust us, but also trust themselves, Meaning if I tell you to rank your priorities and you do it and it changes your life for the better, you now trust yourself to do the things that we tell you to do. Right. So it's a big hurdle that a lot of marketers never talk about. Cash flow engineering, customers for life, revenue multiplication. What I want to start with is get cash now ACE cards. Everybody wants cash now. Everybody has compiled ACE cards over their career, over their life, with all the relationships, and they're not even aware that they're ACE cards. So I'm thinking about doing the Get Cash Now ACE card challenge specifically, which would look like 5 days in a row, probably Monday through Friday. Actually, I know it's going to be Monday through Friday. I will go live every day, and I will give you one ACE card. Say, hey, this is how this works. This is how you do it. Here's the resources you need. Go do it, and you will get cash if you implement it. Okay, so that's how these challenges would work. And again, I want to start with the Get Cash Now 5 days. It's a big commitment because I got to build all the stuff and articulate it well and answer questions. And if it goes well and the demand is there, we will start working through these in order. So we'll start with Get Cash Now 5-day challenge. If everybody participates, everybody has success, you want to do it again, we'll go ahead, we'll tackle the next thing, maybe customers for life, maybe cash flow engineering, and we'll do another 5-day challenge. Definitely not back-to-back weeks. But if you participate and you're on the list, we'll do that too. Okay, so start with the ACE cards, 5 days, and going to open it up for platinum members for extra support. So the challenge may be free, may be paid, undecided yet, but platinum members obviously will have a ton of live support. And if you want to wait till I'm done with my spiel, I'll show you how to get on the wait list for Dan's book. That's the other thing that I wanted to drop in there. So if you go to cfeclass.com/platinum, it's $597 by 2. It's an outrageous price. You also get the 7 steps to cash strategy swipe, which I just put a whole bunch of new resources in there. Again, it's from a cash flow engineering, revenue multiplication standpoint. 7 strategies you can implement right now that are long game strategies that also create short-term wins. You get the profit priority. We'll throw in the workbook, all this, help you work through it. Obviously, it'll all be built into an app soon. Profit Flywheel archive, all the worksheets and workbooks, anything I share is available. 52 weeks of live call support with Dan and I. Right now, that is 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The support is there. The community is there. Everything you need. I'll give you the full revenue engineering masterclass, the workbook, and all the resources. There is one of our calls on Thursdays dedicated to helping you add additional streams of income and help you work through what pivots you might want to make. Again, live support is included. Plus, I haven't done this yet because obviously we can't travel. I'll throw in an office day, which means if you want to find yourself in California or perhaps Seattle, where Dan has a new office, and I am looking at homes right near that new office, throw in an office day. So platinum members, find yourself in our neck of the woods. I'm happy to spend a day deep diving with you, working on your business, working through your priorities, making sure your bumpers are up, making sure that the decisions you're making are actually serving you. So that's cfeclass.com / or / I don't know what kind of slash that is. I always get them confused. Platinum, cfeclass.com/platinum. So we're going to have questions for anybody that's live. But first, Dan mentioned his book. I've seen the outline. We're going to spend some time cranking out content for it next week. If you want to get on the wait list and or pre-order it plus the app, you can go to cfeclass.com/book / or / whichever one that is, and get on the wait list, and we'll make sure that you are, if nothing else, you are made aware when it's available, as well as the app. So cfeclass.com / book. Any questions about the profit priority?